Ken, good morning. Appreciate you coming out. Excited obviously to start this 23. I mean, really the season started back in January, but the phase of now that the season is exciting. I personally feel like we're at really a good space from a standpoint of the biggest thing that I feel is different is depth. We really have depth at every position that I think has maybe been a little bit different in the last couple years. I look at really every position, and there's guys that we feel have the ability to get on the field and do some positive things. So that's really been good. I think we're off to a solid start in camp. Today wasn't as good as it needed to be, and I think the guys sense that. Really only the second day in pads. We're really, really early in things, but as you go in camp, you begin to add more things. The defense begin to add more things, and that multiplicity effect we've got to be able to handle. So, a solid start, but really excited about the depth and how the guys are working. Quarterback-wise, it's exciting. I really like the room. We got 4 guys in the room with Drew Scorfar and Caton and Sam and Noah, and I think they're progressing well. They're progressing well. They're doing some things, and it's early yet, so I've got to kind of continue to see. And now that we've been able to put the pads on, it's a little bit more real in a sense of football. When you just have shoulder pads and helmets, a little bit different. But they're doing some good things. It's a good situation. I like the guys in the room, and they're working hard. And like I said, I think we have depth at a lot of positions, and it's really been positive. So with that, I'll open it up to you guys and whatever you got.
We got to Mel last week, and he didn't make the starting quarterback, so just wanted to give you the opportunity to.
Yeah, no, we're still working on it. Yeah, but great question though.
But I guess from that competition, how different is it from last year when you knew what you had in Peyton's experience, and now you've had Noah for year 4, but game experience is limited.
Right.
Peyton.
Yeah, I think it's different from a certain standpoint of, as you mentioned, it's always different when you don't have a guy that's had the actual starting game experience. It's always, I think, a little bit different in the quarterback room when you're the starter as far as how you handle that and how that happens. So, I don't think any of us will know the answer to that until September 1st. But I do like the room. I mean, the guys are working hard. It's a good room. They're challenging each other. They're empowering each other. So I'm excited about it because they all got some good skills. And I like our room. We have depth, which is really exciting. But yeah, from that standpoint, like I said, I won't really know that until we go out there against Central on the 1st.
When you are breaking in quarterback, and you have a changeover like you did at receiver, is there a benefit to that? Because a lot of those quarterbacks, whether they were 2s or 3s with the scout team, working with receivers that are going to move into this role?
Yeah, I think there's some benefits to that situation. I like that as you mentioned, kind of those second-year guys with Gates and Glover and Tyrell Henry. They've been kind of working with them, and so that will, I think, bode some positives for us as we move forward. So I think there is some of that match, and that is good for us.
Noah came in with you essentially.
Yeah, correct. That COVID year, yes.
Yeah, you've been around him a long time, and I know he's competing for the job, but it's sort of his moment, whether he wins it or not. This is the best opportunity. I'm just wondering, do you sense that he senses that, and is there a difference to somebody who's in the position he is now?
Yeah, I think there is some sense of difference. I think part of that difference a little bit for Noah is just the maturing process that he's went through since 20 when he got here in the fall. He got here and obviously we had the interesting year in 20, and then he was kind of in redshirted and down the line. But I really felt like even a year ago his approach kind of changed for the better, and he became a lot more locked in and focused and has really carried that now to this level because obviously it is very much a different situation. He's the oldest guy in the room. He's been with us the longest, and that from an experience standpoint of knowing it bodes well for him. But I also think he's done the right thing in how he's approached it. It's really been positive. He's always a great worker, but also what he's doing mentally is showing up.
His willingness to sort of compete for that job. Like he didn't know Peyton was going to transfer this
Right.
in the spring and thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, in a day and age where it's really easy to leave, especially at that position, why you think he's stayed and what you see in him that makes him that person?
I think he kind of accepted the challenge, and I think he wanted to battle through the adversity of maybe not being the starter a year ago, and I think he felt like his game was continuing to improve, and he could put him in a space to really be competitive and help the team.
In terms of depth, you talked about having that depth at all positions. In terms of with the running backs, obviously a pretty deep room. Is that something that's not going to shake itself out until the end of the month, or are there 2 or 3 guys that you see that look like they're going to take that step earlier than others?
Right. Right now I think it's a little bit early for me to say because, like I said, today was just day 2 in pads. So again, I firmly feel we're going to need a little more time throughout this month to see where that is. There's guys that have a little more experience, so those guys are obviously up there a little bit, but yet I'm excited about the room. It's as I mentioned, we've got some guys that played, and we've got some influx of new guys in there, and it's a good mix and match. And so I think once we get to more padded days, more scrimmage days, and all that, I'm hoping that sorts itself out.
And when you have a day like you described today that maybe was not as good as you would like as a staff, do you really get after the guys, or do you say, hey, it's early, let's let them work through it?
No, I think our mentality is to kind of get after them every day, and create that. I mean, we're always in the position of trying to make the game easier than practice and meetings. And so we want to take that mentality as a coaching staff, and that comes from Coach Tucker and trying to create that. So hopefully when they get out there in a game day, like, okay, I've done this before and I've been here. So we're trying to create that good, bad, or indifferent, trying to be very consistent with a high demand, a high challenging focus for practice each and every day.
Jay, you keep mentioning about this depth and how essentially, I think one thing a lot of people want to know is how it's going to equate to wins this season. You've mentioned it, Tucker's mentioned it, players have mentioned it, and I know that's kind of the general consensus around kind of fan base.
Well, I think when you have more depth, it allows you to practice better. There's been times in the past where lack of depth does not allow us to prepare how we want to prepare. So any times you can prepare more and prepare at a higher level, that should bode itself to hopefully better performance on the field. I think that's one. And then I think the second thing is it also is challenging all of us among our offense because there are more guys that we feel can play. It's the intensity's higher, the focus is higher, and you kind of get that all gelling together, and then that's got to lend itself to better performance and hopefully more wins.
Coach, you touched on it earlier about mental toughness. The quarterback is obviously probably one of the most positions that need the most mental toughness. How do you manage the different personalities? Do you have a different approach for different individuals? How do you manage all those different personalities to get the most out of it?
Yeah, I think it is challenging. As we all know, it's from the quarterback perspective, I think they're all a little bit different, right? And so, and I think we've got a good feel. We talk a lot and we talk openly amongst each other of where they are and how they are and what they need. I ask them, what do you need from me? And because I think that's important because, as you mentioned, everyone's different and how they approach. Sometimes you maybe just have to wink at an individual. Sometimes you might need to get after one. But I feel like with our relationship and how we communicate, we're all kind of on the same page of what needs to happen. And so we try to do that as a whole staff and try to figure out how those guys tick so we can address them the right way and put them in a good situation.
Jay, with Jalen Barberman listed as a running back and Alante as a receiver, are those guys though that you think that we could see maybe in different spots that could be multidimensional sort of pieces for you?
Possibly. Again, I think it's a little early for me on that. With both of those being newcomers and obviously, both of them really just kind of getting around this summer, didn't even have the spring. I would need more time to figure that out.
Well, what do you like about him so far?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think you can see Alante. I mean, I really like the way he approaches the game. His work ethic has been really, really good. He's a physical player, and again, he's beginning to pick up on what we're trying to do from a scheme deal. And Jalen, as we all know from his past, I mean, the guy can fly, and so, working with him of transitioning into the system and also working at times when we need a little more tempo and then use the speed at different times. So that will be a little bit of a transition for him. But they're both starting to make strides and understand it. So I think they do have a good and unique skill set. So it's going to be interesting to see how that continues to develop.
From the competition on the line, how deep do you think you can go this year, and how deep do you want to go this year?
Well, I want to go as deep as I can without obviously, affecting the play. And that's where I think, it's interesting. I mean, I look at the tackle position and the interior guys, and I mean, Cap is moving those guys all around all the time. And so I'm excited. I mean, if you go back to 21 for a greater part of the year until we got a little dinged, we were playing 10 guys, a lot. And I think we can be in that world. I don't know if it'll be quite that extreme, but I think we're approaching that because we've got some guys that came in the program. You look at some second-year guys that are in the program now that have taken leaps and bounds. You look at, even some of the third-year guys. So you look at Keyshawn, coming in. So I think that's there, and as we continue to progress, I'm hoping that we can get to that role because it's going to help us all. And then if hopefully you don't have the injury, but if you do, then that player's ready to go and has some experience and can help us.
You lose Jaden and Keon, Tyler Hunt, Daniel Barber, all these guys. Seemed like last year you had a pretty good idea of who these playmakers would be going in. Do you get a sense that obviously with the guys that left that these guys know there's openings for catches, yards, all that stuff, and there's maybe a different feeling from the group trying to take over these key positions?
Yes, I think so. I absolutely do. Obviously, again, what we have to determine, what they have to present themselves as players is who do you want to get the ball in their hands and who do you want to touch it. And, I'm excited that that receiver core, as I mentioned, is really continuing to grow. I'm excited about Montori Foster. We know about Trey. I mean, Trey's been steady as it can be. Then you got the young influx and even the newcomers. So I definitely feel there's some playmaking ability in there. It's going to look different than it was a year ago, but I'm fine with that because I'm very confident in those guys. And so I think that, and then, we got 9 or 10 tight ends. And I'm excited about that position. The looks of the person that I think has really improved his game is Malik Carr. Not only I know he has a skill set to run and catch and do all that, but what he's been doing physically in the run game is really taken a step, which makes him more of a complete player. And then you add in there some of these other guys that we have and some of the young guys getting older. So, it's going to be a combination of who we got to get the ball in their hands and who can do it. And so, I think a little more time will tell us and begin to kind of lend itself and direct us where that needs to go.
Jay, thinking back to Noah's first play of his career, and Peyton got dinged, you put him in, thought it was going to be some sort of a running play or very safe.
Is that the touchdown he threw? Am I thinking there?
That deep one, he got the PI.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
What does it say about the trust you have in him or the maturity he had to make you call that?
Yeah, no, as you know, you've been around Noah a little bit, I think he's very smooth. He's very, very poised. And so I'm very trustworthy of all those guys in the room. And so I had no problem with that. Because, he doesn't flinch. He's one of those guys that can handle it, handles hard coaching, handles adversity. And that's why we mentioned earlier why he's still here. So, yeah, he presents that every day.
Did you think about last year, Peyton before he left brought up the idea that he was pretty beat up starting with that Western game. Were there points last year where you thought Noah might be, given that Peyton was a little banged up, the answer for a little while?
Possibly. You never know on that. It all comes to what's the here and now, the situation, and what the physical condition is. But I was very confident if that come to be that Noah would be fine. Absolutely.
Looking at as being on now, how much are you hoping that this can expedite maybe the QB race in terms of player needs and pushback?
Yeah, it always is because, again, now you have to start dealing with a little bit different things from the O and the D line perspective, particularly when you're talking the pass game. And then also what will happen, which is just a part of fall camp, I think, for everyone. But as you go through fall camp, obviously you're trying to get things in to install things for your offense. Well, the defense is doing the same. And by the time you get to day 5 or 6, there's probably more things in that you'll ever have in a game, and there's more things in that they'll ever have in a game. And so what I'm looking to see is when we get that volume, how do they handle it? And so that's coming here in the next couple of weeks. And then we certainly do things because we don't want to have analysis by paralysis. We don't want to be paralyzed with what we're doing. But again, I think it's going to put them in a situation where they're going to show where they're at and how they're handling things, and that will be positive for us.
So I want to talk about Noah, what differentiates and separates Caden as a player, and what skill sets does he bring that could overtake him for that job?
Yeah, I think Caden, I've been very pleased. Caden has a exceptional arm talent. Freakish arm talent. And he's really gifted there. And I think since his arrival here, there's been a couple opportunities that he's done a good job running the ball and moving the ball with his feet. So it's that coupled with, really Caton's just going into his second fall. And where he's come mentally and the command that he's had is really, really good. Because again, as mentioned earlier, you kind of get into that trust deal, and I'm at the point where he's really, really locking into that and doing a great job with all of that. So I think that makes him very marketable.
Both of those guys were in here today saying, like, essentially paraphrasing, the consistency, which will be the dominant trait that wins out in this battle. Is that how you see it, as well as anything else that you'll be prioritizing when you have to sit down?
Yeah, I think it's consistency, and we try to look at the whole picture of things, and how they're performing. At the end of the day, they need to take care of the ball and get the team into the end zone and score points. And so that's, and sometimes that's a little bit harder to evaluate in a practice setting, but you get a pretty good feel for that. So that's what I'm going to look for. And then, as we all know, we can't expect any of these guys to be perfect. I mean, we can't. And I've shared that with them sometimes. You get in this type of situation, they're trying to be perfect. I'm like, you're not going to be perfect. But I want to see what you have to do after that imperfect play, because that's going to matter on Saturdays. And so that's a work in progress, and we're working on that every day. And so I want to see that whole mix and match of how do they do it, how do they handle the team, how do they run it, how do they manage it, and then where are they at? Can they keep the poise and come back and play the next play? So we're constantly stressing that in the meetings and on the field. And right now the arrow's up that they're handling it well.
Yeah, I think every coach would love to have a clear number one quarterback, what we've seen in the Sun last year in Ann Arbor, where they had two guys going early and then pick one. Is it possible that you could use more than one quarterback at the beginning of the season and let that determine it?
That could be a possibility. Yes, that could be. I don't really know yet. I've done that in my past some, so I'm not completely against it. I just think what presents itself, and at the end of the day, it's going to come back to the team, obviously, and what we feel is best for our team and best for that room and how it affects the whole team. So if we think that's the best interest, yeah, that could be a possibility.
How's Sam been doing
Yeah.
Sam been doing so far? Mel and Indy said it's a 3-man race.
Yeah.
Where's he at so far? Just coming in the summer.
Right. No, Sam is progressing well. He took some time. The way his schedule said, he got here in the middle of June, but I've been very pleased with just coming here, and now these are the first practices he's been involved in. His mental approach has been really, really strong. He understands it in the meeting room. I try to challenge him all the time, and he has the answer. And so Sam's done well, and he's talented and kind of working out the flow of things, but it's been positive. I mean, he's right in there and competing. He shows good poise out there. We've tried to put him in some challenging situations early, and he showed some good poise. So I'm excited about Sam.
The other tight ends, some came in the middle of, or in time for spring practice, and the additions, the younger guys coming up. Can you expand a little bit more about who's coming up behind Card?
Right. You've got that one, a guy that's just been a workhorse for us for a number of years is Evan Morris, a local kid, and really, he's been playing well. I like Evan. Jalen Franklin, who joined us last spring, is beginning to come along in the transfer deal. Then you got Michael Masunas and Jack Nickel, and there's all sorts of guys. Adam Mola is doing good. So, the younger guys, I think, still need to continue to grow, and even some of the guys that just joined us, like Jalen Franklin, for example, Tyneal Hopper, they got to grow, but I'm starting to see them come, and so they're beginning to challenge it. And so what's going to be interesting, I think, in that position is for what do you want to do, how do you put them in, and where do you put them? Because certain ones, as we know, maybe have a little bit better strong suit and whatever scheme that you're involved in. So that's the challenge right now between myself and Coach Gilmore and the rest of us, trying to piece that all together of what mix of those guys puts us in a good place.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, guys. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, too. Next up, Coach Reed here.